Hi, I'm Brendan. I'm a low-carb success story from New Zealand, and I'm joined today by Dr. Bill Errico. Welcome along. Could you tell us a little bit about where you're based and what you do?
Yes, thanks for having me. My name is Bill Errico, so I'm a family medicine doctor, and I'm based out of a very small town in rural Washington, in north central Washington, called Omak, Washington, part of a larger organization called Confluence Health, based in Wenatchee, and I'm at one of the satellite clinics. So I'm full spectrum family medicine doctor practicing over there for the last 10 years, and I've been practicing medicine in general for about 16 years, starting in the Air Force with residency at Travis Air Force Base in California. So now practicing civilian medicine.
And so what led you to discover low carb? How did you get started there?
It's a kind of a fascinating story because I did not discover it on my own. I did not discover it based on any medical training. Discovered it accidentally. My wife had just had a procedure to have surgery on to treat her acid reflux back in about January of 2017, and she discovered after having that surgery that she really was struggling to eat the foods that she was used to eating, breads, pastas, rice, things like that. So she had a lot of trouble with bloating, a lot of trouble with gastrointestinal distress. So she did her own research and was listening to interviews and was on the internet and trying to find ways of treating her own problems. And discovered in the process an interview with Jimmy Moore, who's a well-known in the low-carb world, and she was just so impressed by kind of the things he was talking about, and it all made sense to her. And then she, doing more research, found Jason Fung, doc from Toronto, who is very much in this realm, and just did a great job explaining diabetes. And she brought that to me, and I was just sort of amazed that I had missed this information for about 13 years of my practice. So I was very excited and brought this to my practice, and honestly was one of only 2 doctors even going into this method of intervention for disease processes. But I found that because so many of my patients have prediabetes or diabetes, that there was just an opportunity for me to intervene in a different way that made my job more exciting. So that's kind of how I stumbled upon the scene, and I've really never looked back. My own life, I had lost about 25 pounds and have relatively kept it off, but did it without a lot of struggle, and did it basically having endless amounts of energy. So I was hooked at that point, and I was very excited, and it's brought a lot of joy to my job.
And so taking that forward, could you tell us a bit more about how you've gone and applied low carb in that practice environment?
Yes, so at each visit that I kind of see an opportunity with the patient, I do spend probably more time than the allotted time I have for patient care in discussing first what patient's diet is. I like to learn about what their practices are at home, and maybe dispel some common myths they think are healthy, such as fruit juice, things like that, that they consume a lot of. And I try to first hear them talk, because it's very important that the patient has the opportunity to provide their input and they're not just being talked to. So setting up that interview is important, and I owe a lot to Dr. David Unwin, watching some of his videos about how to counsel patients on dietary change and how to not steamroll over them with ideas, but to very cautiously do things slowly to promote lifestyle change, because we all know that it's behavioral change that needs to come with the lifestyle change. So working closely with patients in that way does take extra time, but it's a lot more rewarding, because on the follow-up visits that you do see these patients and see their follow-up blood work and see their success and how they were empowered to do the changes, it really inspires me to continue to do it, and inspires people they know, and even inspires local community efforts to change people, to change the paradigm of diet. So
What's an example of a particular low-carb success story that you've seen for yourself in your experience?
My favorite are the patients that and I don't know that I know exactly one, but there's been a few cases where I have a patient who for years and years and years has diabetes and is now on insulin. And those are my favorite cases because, first of all, insulin's expensive. It causes weight gain. They're fairly tired. They feel defeated as people. So I've probably had a small handful where they've come in and they've been on insulin, and as soon as I had seen people like this in the past, I would feel like I have a mountain to climb. But ever since about summer of 2017, I've felt like this is an amazing opportunity for me to intervene to get these people off their insulin, give them hope. My favorite about the other part of people on insulin that I think are my favorite patients are as soon as they're off of the insulin and doing a little bit of dietary change, even if they're not completely low carb, they get a massive weight loss when they're off that medicine, and they have more money in their pocket. And so it's a perfect time in my career that our culture is not wanting to be on medicine as a remedy, that they're actually looking to nutritional dietary changes, herbal supplements, things that are more natural. It seems like our culture is moving that way anyway, so it's a very good opportunity to start promoting low carb to my patients. So yes, probably 40 to 50 pound weight loss on the average after going off insulin. They come back, they're happy, they're committed because they've done it. They are bought into this. So I would say those are the success stories that I feel the most inspired by myself, and it keeps my own health and my own health-mindedness at the forefront because I see that it's possible for anyone to do it, even people struggling.
And what about, speaking of people who may be struggling, what are the sorts of barriers or challenges to people in that position getting started with low carb?
It's a great question. So the biggest issues I think I come across are people who have very poor social support, those that are struggling with depression, anxiety, and those that have very low income. So those are the people that I think are the biggest barriers to long-term success. So they are also people I really like to see because I know that they're the most needy. They may draw the most coverage or expenditure of money because they're sometimes the sickest too. So they are in the hospital quite a bit. And I just think those are the people I like to see more of because I know that I have an opportunity to say, hey, how's your behavioral health? Or how's your mental health? How's your, are you smoking? How's your family support? And you start to get an idea of that in the beginning instead of focusing just on diet. And then working the diet into the conversation becomes easier once you get to know them. And I feel very lucky to be a family medicine doctor who knows these patients in a rural environment for so long that I can have a relationship with them and make change a lot easier for them because they trust me and they see my own health and my own life changes that I've made. And just like learning from other doctors like Jason Fung and Megan Ramos in Toronto, there's a lot of motivational interviewing and empathic discussions where you put yourself down at their situation and you say, I've been there, because most of us have been there, and I know what you're going through, and this is what I've done in my life, and I know you can do it too. And just giving them hope is, I think, the biggest intervention you can do. And it is a challenge, but that's pretty much why we get into medicine, is to rise up to the challenge and try to make change for all our patients.
To what extent do you see the low carb approach becoming more accepted in your day-to-day dealings?
I've seen it become more accepted probably in local businesses, whether it be an example would be seeing more products like rice cauliflower available in supermarkets. Never saw that even just a year or two ago, and now it's available at Walmart and Safeway and things like that. Just major organizations that are even in small rural environments, going to a restaurant and seeing keto options, low carb options. Even at fast food restaurants, they have low carb buttons they can press to say bunless burger, things like that. So it's the conversation's there, and it's, I think, going to become even more and more obvious now. The dietary guidelines are changing, things like that. So I think it's moving in the right direction, and I think once you get more and more mounting evidence that it's effective, you can't really go back. So it's exciting.
And how has this changed the way you feel about your work?
I go to work pretty much knowing each day I'm going to make a difference. I didn't feel that way with diabetes in the past. I felt like I was managing it, but I wasn't curing it. I wasn't putting it into remission. So now I actually feel like I can put it into remission. And when you know you can, it makes goal setting a lot more fun. So you know that the patient's going to deal with some mishaps here and there, like we all have stressors in our lives, and they're going to struggle. They're going to fall off the bandwagon, come back on, but you're always there to support them. So I think it brings that joy of medicine back. It brings the healing aspect of medicine back. And I love kind of committing to trying to de-prescribe medicine each day. There's almost never a day that goes by that I can't de-prescribe medicines, take people off medicines. And I guess that's like the biggest joy that I find on a day-to-day basis.
And finally, just on the subject of transitioning off medicine and with more of a focus on food, do you have any particular go-to meals, recipe ideas, favorite things that you like to eat or that your low-carb patients like to eat?
Almost always, you can't go wrong with a ribeye steak. So my wife, just from the very beginning, will occasionally make the ribeye steak with artichoke, grilled artichoke. It's probably my favorite. She also makes a low-carb curry on riced cauliflower, chicken curry. So those are my favorite. My patients will, it depends on, if they're cooks or if their family, if their spouse is a cook, but they'll mention things too. But I know that those are my go-tos. So I'm not really a fan of the supplements, the keto this, keto that. I don't particularly like to dive into things like keto pizza, things like that, because I feel like what it does for me is it brings me back to an old thought process of how I used to eat, and I knew that was the wrong way to eat. So I like to really just focus on real food. Like if it's a steak, if it's a nice fillet of salmon, if it's things like that, I just really feel like my body craves that. And when you go away from that, your body tells you, get back.
Awesome. Dr. Bill Errico, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.